Testing, testing. Testing, testing. Welcome. Testing, testing.
Amy, you ready? It's all about Amy, whether
Okay.
she's ready or not.
This meeting has been given public notice in accordance with section 19.83 and 19.84 Wisconsin statutes in such form that will apprise the general public and news media of subject matter that is intended for consideration and action. Roll call shows all trustees present, Chief Merton, and Command Battalion Chief Holmes, and Amy. Now we will have citizen input. Please be advised that we have upped the time limit to 4 minutes, but it's going to be a hard stop at that 4 minutes. Is there anyone who wishes to come forward for public comments?
Good evening, Melanie Smythe, N140W17938 Cedar Lane. I think most of us received the latest newsletter from the county, which looks like this on the cover. And on page 4, it talks about a unified vision for fire and emergency medical services. And it goes through what happened last year. And there's a new state law provision allowing counties to exceed property tax levy limits for shared emergency medical services by creating a regional EMS system. And that there's a subcommittee of the Washington County Fire Chiefs Association actively pursuing the report's recommendations. And it goes on. So this reminds me a little bit of the whole thing with the dispatch. And so I'm suggesting that perhaps we want to participate in these discussions so that we understand what they're trying to get to. Whether we participate or not, it's better to be involved in the conversations and potentially influence them if this, whether or not we want to participate in this. It seems to me that with the whole shifting of the dispatch, because we did not possibly, I don't know the details, participate as much in those conversations. Maybe we did, but it felt like something was foisted upon us rather than we had a hand in designing an optimal outcome. So I'm suggesting that we take another look at this and try and avoid some of the issues that we had with the dispatch. So thank you.
Yes, thank you for coming forward. Go ahead.
I know we're not supposed to comment on public comments, but I did not receive that. And I mean, I'm definitely interested.
Are the police chiefs aware, are the chiefs aware of this? Action by the county?
We are aware and we have been participating. We all attend the Washington County Fire
You're
Chiefs
on.
Association. Yes, sir.
You're on it. Okay, thank you.
Anyone else wishing to come forward for public comment?
Scott Heffley, W159 and 10514 Old Farm Road, Germantown. Just 2 comments tonight. First of all, I reread the packet about 5 times and I saw the words Kinderberg Park in there. I know we had discussions about Friedenfeld as an option for the public safety or fire or whatever. Now I hear the word Kinderberg. Okay. That will be as unpopular as you can possibly imagine with the people there. I don't think I need to tell the trustees that that is going to be, if it goes there, it goes there, but it's not going to be popular. It'll be less popular than Friedenfeld, I will assure you of that. The other part is, are we combining all the other work that has been done to this point? We've identified numerous properties, ones that are combined, ones that are separated and all that. Is there a compilation of all the research and all the money and all the consulting that has been done for the last year to 18 months? Do we have that all in a concise place we can refer to? Or are we just tilting, going over here, well, what about this and what about that? I guess that's a question. Maybe it can't be answered because you can't comment, but that's something that you should consider. Like, where is the central thought process on this? What are the real options? I did not see anything about Ben's Oil. Ben's Oil is a tract of land in the industrial park that has sewer and water, that's right by the DPW, that's on Donjas Bay, that has that easy access to 145, easy access to Woosaki, easy access to County Line, east of Pilgrim, which helps cover the hotspot part of the village that I'm made aware of. I don't even see it in the proposal as being discussed, so I'm hoping we're not losing that information and not paying attention to it, because that has to be looked at. Every possibility has to be looked at. We are not talking about a small amount of money. It is very significant. And it's not going to be a TID where it was going to directly affect the budget and the people in this village, who, by the way, just had their taxes raised a couple of times for a DPW building and for a referendum to help public safety. So asking them to over and over again to pay for things without fully vetting it, I think you got to take your time and do it right. And I understand it's been going on for years, and I'm sure there's people up there that would say they've been working on it for years. I'm not concerned about what happened years and years ago. I'm concerned what happens now. The last thing is the billable fees. I took a look at those. I see a lot of those doubling, and I know it's mostly for ambulance and life-saving type things. Why are we doubling the fees? Okay. A lot of things in the world now are inflation adjusted, index adjusted. You start somewhere, you work your way up. I see it just being doubled. Is it because we have a lot of uncollectibles and we've written them off? And I didn't see anything about what other villages are charging for those same services. What does West Bend charge? What does Kewaskum charge? What does Hartford and Slinger charge? Are we above that, below that? Why wouldn't we at least look at that before we make decisions on this? So I understand costs are going up, but doubling seems a lot. And then are you really putting a burden on those with private insurance? Because I don't think you can jack it up for Medicare and Medicaid patients because the state protects them. So it's only for private insurance. Are you passing a burden onto the taxpayers because they have to come up with the difference? And to be honest, after they just paid for a referendum to give you more firefighters and more help, now you're asking them to give you more money again. So I think more information is needed, and that's my only comment. Thank you.
Thank you for coming forward. Or is there anyone else that wishes to come forward for public comment?
Good evening. My name is Jan Miller. I'm here as a resident, 30-year resident on Windsong Circle West, directly across from Kinderberg Park. And I was a little astonished to see Kinderberg Park as a location for public safety. I don't know who recommended that. The park, we just spent $300,000 putting in a brand new playground. We spent approximately $25,000 putting up gates to keep the place safe. We had to, protect it from all the graffiti and things that were going wrong. What we need is a camera there, but I think the last thing that we need is a public safety building. It isn't that big, and unless you're going to put it in one of our few ballparks, I don't know where it would go. The address said Buckthorn. I couldn't find it on the map, GIS, but I'm not that great with it. So I'm very concerned. And any locations, what I would recommend is any of the locations that you're not interested in taking a look at or don't make sense, take it off the list, because we are being charged for taking a look at each one of those locations. Are they duplicates? What are we talking about here? I'm all for public safety and fire safety, and we need to be safe, but let's make it make sense. Way you can get in and out of Kinderberg Park fast and get to the expressway unless you're flying. So that's my comment. Thank you.
Thank you for coming forward. Is there anyone else that wishes to come forward for public comment?
Bob Fingstein, W157N9942 Bayberry Circle. And I'm here to share some thoughts about the issue with the sirens in the village. I know it's been kicked around for a couple months now. And just to say I'm against removing them. The fact that everybody has a cell phone is not a fact. There's a lot of elderly people who don't have cell phones. Comments being made, well, you'll get an alert on your phone if you set it up. Well, when I'm outside working in the summer, I don't carry my phone with me. Okay. We certainly, not that it would happen to the degree that it happened in Texas, but we don't want to have a situation like that evolve here because we don't have sirens. Some of the comments that have been made were, first of all, I haven't been hearing the sirens, and I've been working with a lieutenant at the police department to understand why I'm not hearing them during the day at noon. They do a quick growl, and on Saturday it's a long test, and I can't tell you the last time I heard them. So I called the police department on the 27th or 26th to ask if they were functional, and I was told they were. And then when I didn't hear it the next day, I went over to the police department and met with one of their lieutenants who I've been working with to try to understand if they are or are not working. There was two options that were brought up from, I think, Sheboygan Signal. One was over 100,000, one was 22 or 23,000. Both were voted down. And I don't remember if it was this committee or if it was the village board. And at that meeting, I believe both the chief and the DPW manager were there, and they talked about, well, the poles might need to be replaced. Well, okay, how do we know how long those poles have been in place? Do we know how long they last? When's the last time you saw the electric company or any of the utilities come around and replace those posts? They're made to last. They're treated, and they just don't fall apart. Okay, so I understand we're paying maintenance to Sheboygan Siren, but I don't know what kind of maintenance they do. It was brought up at one of the meetings and it was talked about and nobody knew. What are we getting for that money? So, got some other notes here. Then I can't remember if it was a village board meeting or one of these meetings, but two comments were made by trustees. One was by you, Trustee Baum, saying nobody wants them. You have any facts to show that? Did you do a survey? Okay, I'd be interested to know who everybody is, and nobody wants them. There was also discussion when that was voted down, and I can't say for sure who said it, but they were gonna look into decommissioning the system. Okay? It was either the chief or the DPW manager, I don't remember which, and it's not important. But we can't let those sirens go. In my understanding, they were originally put into place for civil defense and air raid sirens, okay? And if we decommission them the way things are in the world right now, that's a bad idea. You know, you want to notify the residents of Germantown if there's impending danger, whether it be a storm or a missile coming in. So, let's see, what else did I have here? And Trustee Warren said, get rid of it. He doesn't want to throw any money at an antiquated system. But I didn't hear anybody say how old that system is. It's been working. So it's not broke. I think we should continue using it. I know the option now. And once that's, I don't know if it's going to happen for sure. The chief said, I talked to him earlier, that it is going to be moved to the firehouse. Oh, okay, thank you.
Thank you for coming forward. Is there anyone else that wishes to come forward for citizen comment? We just received one email. It says, hello, hope you all enjoy the 4th of July weekend. We apologize for being late and sending these comments to you. Lost track of time today. We would like to say, please don't put the combined public safety building in the Kinderberg Park. This needs to stay a park. We would like to see the combined building placed at the old Flower Source. Yes, we know how valuable the property is, but it is a great location for both. We had the email on this thought from someone already, but it doesn't hurt to try again. Thank you for letting the residents know ahead of suggested plans for the buildings. Suggestion, next time maybe put the suggestions in the papers and on Channel 25. Don't know if it on social media. Have a great meeting, Bill and Carol Schneider. With that, we will move forward to the meeting minutes from June 2nd and June 16th.
Motion to motion to approve June 2nd and June 16th. Let me just make sure I got that right. Meeting minutes. Second.
Is there any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? None. Motion passes. And we move on to reports. We'll start with the police monthly report.
Excuse me. Monthly report, was kind of a busy month, for June. We started with, the school threats, the juvenile made threats, and then the school, we investigated that. The subject was referred to, juvenile authorities. We also had a fatal car crash on Freistadt and Pleasant View. That was investigated and reconstructed by the State Patrol. Our detectives are working on that right now. There's also a stabbing that occurred in June, where the subject fled to Indiana. Our detectives worked with Indiana authorities. They apprehended the individual. Charges referred to the DA's office. We're still waiting for extradition back to Wisconsin. There was also a female, the officer responded to a female who was passed out. By the time officers got there, she was conscious, but she was arrested for some cocaine, possession, drug paraphernalia, and 4 counts of felony bail jumping in the village. Other than that, their training, I wasn't able to get a list of it, but I did go through the schedule and look today. Some of our officers went to legal update. We had some officers go to scenario instructor, intoximeter certification. One of our new officers went to. We do have a truck inspector now that's certified. He has to go through 32 hours of training down at the scales at Racine before he's official. But then we'll have a truck inspector in the village again. SWAT officers attended their monthly 8-hour training along with a 4-hour night shoot. We hired some new officers who went through high liability training, and our entire department went through EVOC training on emergency vehicle operations. So
Does anybody have any questions for the chief? Right. I just had one question on property checks. There was like a 73% increase from 183 to 318. Do you know why that is or what that?
it's just a matter of whether the officers are checked. I mean, anytime they go out, like they check a building, that's a property check, or they go out and like stop at a gas station, those are property checks. So, I mean, depends on how many times they stopped out. It could be they did more this month. It just varies.
All right, thank you. We'll move on to the fire department monthly report.
So I passed all the June monthly reports. We're still having these. I explained to Chairperson Cutts, in Q1 of 2025, we transitioned to a new reporting software. And with that, we've been working on the integration of all of the previous data. Until that's compiled, the data that it outputs is very skewed, and we don't want to give out skewed data. So we've been doing just manual reports to give the most accurate representation, which is in front of you. A couple highlights: we had 3 new hires finish their new hire academy. They've onboarded already. They're finishing up their last couple training shifts this week or next, depending which one. The 4th of July also was very successful for us. Didn't have any major incidents. One incident during the fireworks with a firework that had exploded prematurely. And then the other thing I'll touch on is the regional EMS meetings. We have been informed of them and attending them. They've had several so far. I would say probably 4 so far. However, the information that's been presented is extremely preliminary. And talking about what may happen versus waiting until there's a solid plan is going to be better, waiting for that plan to come out. Other than that, you'll see that June year over year, we're up about 3% on the year from 2024, which has been trending roughly that same way the entire year. Happy to answer any questions about it.
Anybody have any questions? Yeah. Then we will move on to overtime report. Oh, sorry, Chief Martin. Overtime report.
I attached it to the agenda. The dispatch overtime is going to significantly go down, if not be eliminated, based on the dispatch was consolidated as of today. The patrol overtime was obviously that was based off of all the incidents we had this year with the overtime in Trandle and Indiana, and all the investigations our detectives were working on along with the officers.
Any questions for Chief Martin? Battalion Chief Holmes?
Overtime for the fire department was up slightly in June also. We had 3 members out on FMLA leave. We had 1 return back today and 2 others that'll be out for some time yet. We expect that that'll decrease once all have returned. Additionally, as I mentioned in the monthly report, we have 3 new hires that just finished their ride-along shifts. Once we get them integrated into the schedule fully, that'll dramatically help with our overtime numbers again.
Trustee Baum?
Of all the firefighters, staff that you were looking for, what's your total that's hired? How many more do you have to do?
We have 3 positions vacant still, and the other 7 have been hired.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? All right, then any policy updates?
None for the police department.
None for fire.
Okay. With that, we will move on to unfinished business, which is full dispatch consolidation as of July 7th, 2025. This is discussion only.
As of this morning at 6 a.m., full consolidation has taken effect. All dispatch services have been transferred over to Washington County. There are some minor things that we have to work on yet. As far as the phone system, we have a phone tree right now. We're working on that. We're going to see how it works for the next week or so, if we have to adjust it or not, as far as the extensions. We're also working on the voice over IP to change our phone lines over from AT&T to Spectrum. We're working on that. So hopefully when we get that, it'll be easier to transfer calls from the sheriff's department down to us, because right now we have like 1 line for all the sergeants where it rings at all their desks. So if they transfer a call, it goes to there. They can't transfer calls back to our clerical staff right now unless they dial back to our number and then hit option, I believe 6, and I'll transfer to clerical staff. Other than that, see how it goes. I'll have more report next month if there's any major issues.
Trustee Pieper?
Do you know what VoIP system the county uses that they're transferring the calls?
I don't.
Okay. I would maybe look into that and find out, and make sure it's compatible with their VoIP system.
Well, this is, the village was working on this. Aaron was working on this beforehand, so I'm not positive what it was. Norcom thinks that it will be compatible. Our phone provider, as far as it does all our work for us, they set it up.
So you're staying with Norcom, or are you going to Spectrum?
Norcom is our, basically handles all our phone as far as the programming, all that. Kind of like a third party. But we're going with Spectrum as far as the voice over IP, and they're still trying to transfer the porting of the numbers. It's been going on for a while, and they're going back and forth on that.
And is Capital Data involved in that?
No,
They probably should be, because you can run into issues with VoIP phones. There's a whole lot that goes on in the background of it, and it's just not a simple process of porting over phones. I am more than willing to help you and take a look at it. This is what I deal with on a daily basis.
Norcom has been working with Capital Data. If they have issues as far as the programming of numbers or anything web-based, they'll get a hold of Capital Data and they'll work together with it. They've done it in the
So
past.
they are working with Capital Data.
Well, yes, they are, but for the most part, it's Norcom is handling it. So if they have some issues where they have to gain access, then they get a hold of the IT.
Okay.
But the majority of it's handled by Norcom.
Any other questions? Okay, we will move on to new business. Item A, application for appointment of successor agent Aldi number 67 N96 W18838 County Line Road. Agent for consideration Zachary Moyer, and this is an action item.
Motion to approve new business item A as presented.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? None, motion carries. New business item B, 2025 to 2026 alcohol beverage license application for Jace Gulf LLC, and this is an action item.
Motion to approve new business item B as presented.
Second.
Any discussion?
I just had a question. I know there's 24 licenses. Is this going to be number 24? Just to clarify that. So there would essentially be no licenses left after this one is,
I believe this, well, I'll have to look up the application, but I believe this is in addition to all of the licenses that have been distributed so far, because wasn't the last one that was taken, because Barley Pop is still holding on to one.
I believe so. The
And the
summary,
last one was Solo Gave.
right. The summary said we have issued 23 original and 2 reserve license, and 1 original became available when Gamros Coburg Junction did not renew for the licensing period.
They didn't. Okay.
So Donna, would you know if 23 is correct or 24?
24 regular, we currently have the reserve. Now, whether this is in 24, they'll all be voted.
Any other questions? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? None, motion carries. We move on to new business item C, temporary outdoor entertainment permit application, Bubsdoms Pub and Grill for 8/16/2025 and 8/23/2025, and this is an action item.
Motion to approve as presented.
Second.
Trustee Baum?
Are there any outstanding issues, taxes, events, issues that police and fire department know about, calls, neighborhood complaints, taxes paid for, everything's paid for?
When we sent the application to all the departments, including police and fire, there were no concerns.
Yeah, thank you.
Did you have anything else you wanted to add?
Nope, I was gonna say the same thing.
Okay. Any other questions? Okay. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? None, motion carries. New business item D, amendment number 2 to Grafe contract for professional services for public safety building options, and this is an action item. So I believe we should entertain a motion before we start discussing. Is that correct?
Motion to approve as presented for discussion.
Second.
All those in favor?
Yep. Yeah, we have a motion, so now.
Oh, now we can
have
talk.
discussion.
Okay, gotcha.
Thank you. If you recall, last month, I came to the committee and we had a conversation about what alternatives the committee was interested in looking at for the public safety facilities improvements that are needed. And there were 7 different alternatives that were identified. And we did pass those on to the Grafe PRA Moore team and asked for some cost estimates, which is what you see before you here today. The total cost to provide the analysis that's needed on all 7 of those options is $75,200. We did itemize those, so there is some opportunity for the committee to take a look and decide which ones you really would like to look at it and which ones are not necessary to look at. I'll go through the 7 of them briefly just to kind of give a little bit more background on what each alternative involves. Number one, a review of the previously presented options to identify cost reductions. It was last summer, actually, or fall, that we presented the first report that the Grafe PRA Moore team had put together that looked at the recommended options for police and fire, and that included the construction of a new police station on the old DPW site, the renovation and expansion of Fire Station 2, and the construction of a new fire station at Friedenfeld Park. Those were alternatives that were put together looking at usability and having capacity for the next 50 years. So they were large. It was a large price tag, and that was the direction from this committee and from the board, was to go back and take a look at that, look for other options. What option one would be to scale those back a bit, to take a look at the alternatives that were presented last fall, and determine if there are some things that maybe we could cut back on the size, since there's some uncertainty when you start looking out that far into the future of what's all going to be needed. There may be some features that were included that could be cut back and eliminated. We can identify those and then present that along with the impacts of eliminating those. So that's what item number one would be, to kind of do some re-engineering of what was presented to this committee last fall. Item two would be to look at the Ascension Building. This was an idea that came up. Actually, I think it was might have been first raised in public comment as a way of producing some cost savings. This alternative would be to look at the Ascension Building with which the village has recently purchased, and repurposing that as a police station. The third item here would be to provide a cost estimate for a new police station on the site of the old DPW site that'd be comparable to what would be on the Ascension, if the Ascension building was repurposed. So here would be would be an apples to apples comparison for the board on what those options would cost, what they would look like. Number four is looking at revisiting the expansion of Fire Station 2, and maybe looking at some different options for how that could be expanded to meet the minimum needs that they have at that station today, without and some of the building renovations which are necessary, like, for example, that building needs new windows, and needs some of the infrastructure of the building itself needs to be replaced, just based on the age of the building, not necessarily even on expansion. Number five would be to look at the possibility of and how a staging plan would work if we were to renovate and expand the current police station. So taking the site that we already have and renovating it, expanding it to meet the police department's current needs. Obviously, one of the big challenges there would be how the police department would continue to operate during that renovation. So that is part of what would be reviewed under that option. And then item number six, if we would relocate the police department to either the old DPW site or the Ascension Building, this would provide us with a cost estimate of what it would take to convert the police department into a second fire station. We already own that land. There might be some components of the structures that could be repurposed and utilized for a fire station if the police department does move. And then finally, one of the things that the committee asked for was to take a look at the possibility of having a combined facility, since there are some efficiencies that we can achieve and some cost savings by having a combined police and fire facilities. One of the other parameters was to not look at buying land, but looking at land that the village already owns. The only site that we have, and staff is not recommending this, but the only site that we have that has a space that would allow for that size of a facility to be constructed is Kinderberg Park. The east side of the park, where there's currently a soccer field, is large enough and would provide a space that would be adequate for that size of a facility. And again, that's not something that staff is recommending, but as we look through the criteria of space of land that the village already owns that could meet the requirements both in terms of size and location for a combined facility, Kinderberg Park was the only one that met all of those criteria. So that's why that was identified in here. There are numerous other alternatives we could look at. We tried to narrow this down, focus this on the items that the committee asked us to take a look at when we met last month. Couple of recommendations I would have if you want to look at other alternatives. My recommendation would be to keep this to land that the village already owns. We went through this with the DPW building, and we had to in that case, just because there was no land that the village owned that was suitable for that facility. But for those of you who were on the board at that time, that was a long, difficult, expensive proposition. And it did involve, taking property off of the property tax rolls and then using it for a public purpose. And it was necessary in that case. In this case, there are options on village-owned property, and my recommendation would be to really exhaust those possibilities first before considering going out and buying private land and looking at it for this purpose. But we are open at your direction to look at any options that you would like and that the village board would like. I would request, if there are options on here that you think are worth pursuing, that we move this forward tonight so that we can keep making some progress and work towards an ultimate solution.
Trustee Pieper?
So I know a land swap with Blackstone Golf Course is on the agenda for the village board tonight. So instead of swapping land on the golf course with them, is it possible that we can swap land on Mequon Road, like where the clubhouse is possibly, in exchange for what they want?
I mean, anything is possible and anything can be brought to the negotiating table. I think when you look at acquiring that land on Mequon Road, that's, again, some of the more valuable land in the village. And I think there would be a relatively high cost to that, whether it's in terms of land that we'd be exchanging or a payment that we've been making. But I think that would, either way, there's an economic value to that I think would be relatively high. But it's certainly something, I mean, we can look into that.
I don't know about you guys, but I think it's at least worth a conversation. And then the old Quick Trip. So the new Quick Trip is being built. The old one is still in place right now. I know they have to dig out the old tanks and do all of that, but is there any plans for that land?
There are no plans for that land. It was an option that we went through the first round of this last fall. We did look at that site and it was not large enough for the police station. And it's too close to Fire Station 2 to really be a value for a fire station.
Did you send us an updated list of village-owned property?
I think we did. I can certainly do that again. I'm trying to remember when it was, but yes, we did.
I haven't seen an updated one. I think the one that I have on file is it's like 2.5, almost 3 years old.
Okay, let me check what we have and what I sent out and see if there's anything more up to date.
For item number 2, do we know the square footage to compare the Ascension building versus the square footage of the current police station?
We do have both of those numbers. I don't recall them off the top of my head.
Okay, Yeah, I think that would be helpful to see too, just to see how much bigger that building would be.
That would be definitely part of the analysis that would be provided too.
Okay.
Trustee Baum?
All right, first of all, for the board members. First of all, for the board members, the big question for the DPW was, do you want to build a building big enough for today? Or do you want to build a building for 50 years? When we said we wanted to build a building for the future at the DPW, the residents went ballistic. You are wasting our money. You are overbuilding. You're building a Taj Mahal. If you want to build a building that encompasses the future, you're going to have to answer to the residents on that. So that is one question when we start talking about the site. If we build something smaller, we can go on a smaller site, but you're going to outgrow it. And you're going to have to do this again in a few years. Item number 2, or option number 2, using the Ascension building. I think it's the wrong place. I think it's the wrong use of that building. I think it is a terrible idea to take a valuable piece of real estate and take it off the tax rolls, where we could do something on the outskirts of the central business district and do it a little more efficiently. So I would take number 2 off the list, so we could save $15,000. Provide a cost estimate for a new police station on the site of the old DPW building that is comparable to the Ascension option. I think we have talked about the old DPW building. I think we were fine with that. The problem with that is there's no water and sewer there. I don't know whether we could do well and septic, or we would have to run the water, the $2 million that we looked at for the DPW when we looked to do that there. So that would be an option, but I would entertain that one still.
Which one was that?
That is option number 3,
Yeah.
to look at the old DPW, but I would not equate it with the Ascension. Provide updated cost estimates for scaled back renovation of the fire station. It's fire station number 2. As I recall the plan, I think the plan is reasonable for a long-term investment. But if you want to shrink it down and not spend a lot of money, then we would have to spend the money here. So it's a question of which do you want, the 50-year building or the 10-year building? I would go for the 50-year building. Review the feasibility of staging and preparing cost estimates to renovate and expand the current police station. That has been done to death, and every option I have seen for renovating that police station is just abysmal. It doesn't work. It never worked for you guys, so I would not even entertain that. I don't see it being practical. Prepare a cost estimate for construction on Kinderberg Park. Is that a typo or not? You really mean Kinderberg Park? You don't mean Friedenfeld Park?
No, it's not a typo. Friedenfeld Park, Kinderberg Park was the only park that was suitable based upon the space and the location. Friedenfeld Park is much further east than the police department would like to see. It works out well for fire purposes, but not for police purposes. And the space that we were looking at for a standalone fire station on Friedenfeld Park is not large enough for a combined facility. So it would have to go further to the east and impact not only the practice field on the far west side of the park, but also the football field and potentially some other facilities.
I'm still in favor of Friedenfeld Park myself, but, so I would take, item number 2 off this list. I would take item number, cost estimate to review expansion. I would take 4 off the list. I would take, number 5 off the list. I'd take 2, 4, and 5 off the list and save the cost of their analysis on those 3 items.
I'd take 3 off the list too, just because we were getting fined by the DNR. Like on a daily basis, were we not?
That was,
Water and sewer would need to be brought out there.
but it's part of the cost analysis. Or can you do it on well and septic? That I don't know.
That's why we didn't put the DPW there because.
But the DPW had a greater water demand, where the police department is just toilets. I don't know where they're washing their cars. I think they're taking that over to car wash or DPW.
If I can, just a couple of things that raised some good points. First, on the old DPW site, we would have to extend sewer and water out there, and that is, those cost estimates were updated for in the report that was presented last fall. And although it is a big number, I believe it was about $2 million. Again, it's when you look at the cost of purchasing land, where if you are looking at land that's currently in the sewer and water area, you're probably talking $150,000 to $200,000 an acre for a 15 to 20 acre site. So the cost of extending the water and providing service there might very well be less than the cost of acquiring land within that's currently served by sewer and water. On the Ascension building, just a couple of other pieces of information since the June meeting that we had. I did have a conversation with the staff at Ascension. They did, before the village acquired the property, signed a 3-year extension to their lease. So it is under lease for 25, 26, and 27. So the earliest that any work could begin there would be in 2028. So that would extend that time frame out a bit. And they did say that they are happy with that facility and would like to stay in Germantown. So we would need to assist them then in finding another location if that was utilized for a police station.
So that would be all the more reason not to look at Ascension, is to work with a business that is in town, to stay in town, that the residents want to keep in town. So I wouldn't kick them out for a police station.
All right, well, I agree with number one, that we should look and see if we can get any potential cost savings. I would be interested in number two, just to see what could be done at Ascension, and it's already off the tax rolls because it happened when we purchased it.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was just going to, actually, that it's a triple net lease, so they are still paying property taxes. I'm sorry, I shouldn't have interrupted though.
I don't know about number three. We have already, I don't know how comparing it to what could be done at Ascension would be different than what we've already seen for the DPW site, the old site. I think number four, I don't know. I don't think scaling back is a good idea for that either, because then it's not really doing any kind of long-term fix for that. I would be interested in seeing about the current police department. I haven't seen any of the information on previous things that have been done as far as expanding that. And I don't know if the police department moves somewhere else and Commander Chief Holmes, would that location meet the fire department's needs for the lane miles? Which is why you guys wanted to get out on the east side of the village.
So it would certainly help. However, it's only about 1.5 miles away from our current station, which is a lot closer than we'd like to be. We'd like to be closer to 3 miles away
Okay.
or more.
All right. So I don't know that that's necessarily good. And I don't agree with number 7. I think it's just too high of a residential and the existing park to put a confined facility in there. Trustee Pieper.
What acreage are we looking at here? Or are we shooting for? What is too small? What is the right size?
Well, for the police department in particular, I believe we're looking at 15 acres. Is that about right? Was it 10 to 15? 10 acres.
10 acres?
10 acres minimum.
Okay, so 10 acres on Fond du Lac and Mequon Road, there's $850,000 for the piece of 10 acres there. Or Country Air in Mequon Road, even cheaper, $749,000 for another 10 acres. So DPW is out in my mind, just because we could get property with water and sewer far closer. It might even be there. Is there sewer and water on Country Air and Mequon Road and Fond du Lac and Mequon Road?
There is sewer and water down Mequon Road. I mean, whether or not those two properties would work. We did look and this was in the report last fall, we looked at the Fond du Lac and Mequon parcel. The problem with that particular location is access in and out. It's on two state highways, 145, and then the county, and 167. So there are some potential access, egress and ingress issues on that one that we felt were difficult to deal with.
In my opinion, that'd actually be better because then they could either enter and exit on Fond du Lac Avenue or enter and exit on Mequon Road. Maybe a little more negotiating with county. They're both county, aren't they?
We'd have to work with the state DOT and both of those would require signalization, which, you know, would add, again, significant cost to the project. And it would have to be approved.
To put in a traffic signal?
Well, if there's a fire and they have to turn left out on Mequon Road during rush hour,
I like that.
I think that on a highway like that, you would want to have signalization for safety reasons.
Well, I lived right down Appleton Avenue in Milwaukee, and there's a very active fire station right on Appleton Avenue, right by Silver Springish. And every other time I drove by there, fire trucks were backing in and we all had to slow down. They just put on their lights. Didn't seem to be an issue to me or anybody else. Just saying. I think there's other options we really need to explore here and not the ones that were presented, unfortunately.
Trustee Morst?
Yep, so I am against item number 7. I don't think we should be spending the money to look at Kinderberg Park, which is a very active park in a neighborhood. Some of these other items, I feel like, again, we could potentially save money. I don't know if it's redundant from what was done in the report from fall. And I think I'd also like to see an updated list of the village-owned property, either everything over 10 acres, everything under 10 acres, and see what we can actually work with. But I feel like this list as it stands is, in my opinion, it seems just kind of like random ideas. And I feel like if we're going to look at it, we should take a step back. We should look at the village-owned property, look at the fall report, so we're not spending duplicative money or money on items that we know aren't going to be feasible.
If I may, we did look at the village-owned properties, and, you know, the both in terms with the consultants who, you know, have expertise in this area, along with the two chiefs. And I can send you again the list. I don't think it's changed much recently. I mean, other than the properties that everybody's familiar, the Grosnick property on Main Street and the Pilgrim and Mequon, we haven't acquired or sold any other properties that could, you know, potentially be used for this. And this was the list this did come from the Public Safety Committee. So I'm happy to look, if you have other things that you prefer to take a look at, we could do that. Again, I would like to suggest that in order to keep this process moving forward, if there are things on here that you do want to look at, that we do move forward with those. We can always add other things in the future if you feel the need to.
Okay. Trustee Pieper?
Could you also send us a list of school-owned properties in the village as well?
Sure.
Do you need a motion to eliminate the ones that we've talked about eliminating?
Just like, Chief Merton and Battalion Chief Holmes, is there anything from the police or fire on any of these that you'd like to add in?
From the fire side, I think a lot of things that Trustee Bounds pointed out, and as well as Trustee Pieper, about the 50-year building plans, I think that's responsible. Having a building that's built for today, we'll be back in this same boat in 7 or 10 years from now, having to go through these same processes. With that being said, item number 4, as Administrator Kreckler pointed out, there are insufficiencies with our current building. The windows, the HVAC. The other day, our humidity inside was 85%. There's a lot of things that just due to the age of the building need to begin to get worked on. And the longer that we put those off, the more it's causing other problems to fail. We began to have mold growth that we've had to have remediated due to the humidity levels. The minor repairs to our HVAC system when in reality it needs a total repair. I'd really like to see the renovation and expansion at least get moved forward. When we went through this process last year, we spent a significant amount of time discussing how we can keep it enough for the next 50 years, while also keeping in mind that we do have another proposal coming for another station. This expansion and renovation does not answer all of the needs that we have as a department. And a couple meetings ago, I was asked to look at other stations and determine the size of those stations. So I did do that. Jackson's firehouse is 34,000 square feet plus shared space with the village hall as well as the police department. West Bend's proposal is 44,000 square feet. Watertown just completed a 42,000 square foot facility. They are probably the closest in size and call volume to us. Port Washington has not announced the size of their building, but announced a $35 to $40 million budget. That is for a combined facility though. And Richfield operates out of 3 stations for a total of approximately 40,000 square feet. Currently, we have our only station is 12,000 square feet as it sits, and we're asking for an additional 7,000 square feet in space. It's something that we really need, and the updates truly cannot wait much longer without causing further damage.
Thank you. Chief Merton?
Basically the same things that Chief Riker said. We've outgrown our space. Our building is 42 years old. Our department was half the size when the police department was built. We've grown that much. We added 8 personnel over the last 2 years, and we don't even have room for them in the locker rooms. We have personnel scattered all over the police department. We're just finding rooms to shove them in, make an office out of a closet. I think the plans that were drawn last year would take us into the next 30 to 50 years as far as the size goes. And I think that's what we need to look at. Otherwise, I mean, same thing like the heating and air. There's so many different walls that were put up. The heating and air conditioning, one room right across the hall is different, and you're roasting in one room and the other room is cold. We have electric heaters on the walls because the HVAC system isn't working, and the rooms are still cold in the winter. So it needs to be updated.
Trustee Pieper?
Would it be acceptable to make our next public safety meeting be on site at the fire and police department?
It's acceptable to me, and we've spoken, Administrator Krecklow and I, so that'll be planned for some upcoming meetings to do at both.
So I make a motion for the next public safety meeting on August 4th to be held at both the fire department and police department buildings.
We have a motion on the table that we have to deal with
Correct.
first.
Yes.
All right.
So
So the current motion, if I am correct, is to approve everything on the list as is.
Mhm.
yes,
Yeah.
So
if we can do it quickly, I'll go one by one. I'll make a motion to eliminate number 1.
I say
Wait.
let's eliminate all of them for now. And
just a minute. Shouldn't we just vote on the first one, since we know we
Motion
don't
to
want to
approve
approve
everything?
everything?
let's.
And then
leave
get
one
that
for
off the
us.
table and then start
Makes
over.
Okay.
All right. All those in favor?
Can someone just clarify so I know I'm
We're
voting?
we're voting for all of those options right now to approve or deny. So what if that gets denied, then I'll quickly make a motion to have our next meeting on site.
Okay.
Got it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. All those in favor? All those opposed?
Aye.
Motion fails.
I make a motion to have the next Public Safety Committee meeting on August 4th on site at both the fire department and police department for a walkthrough.
One moment, trustee Pieper. Would we have the meeting at both locations as a tour or sitting at one location?
Well, should we start at the fire department and then go to the police department?
So it'd be a walking meeting. It's a walking meeting.
Yes.
Can we accomplish both in 1 hour?
I think you'd probably have to move the meeting up to 5 o'clock. because you got a village board meeting at 7.
I amend my motion to push the meeting to, or make it earlier at 5 o'clock starting time.
And you're gonna do both facilities in one night? Just for what it's worth, I think it's great that you're doing this and going out to both facilities. I think to tour both facilities and cover the business before the Public Safety Committee, I think even 2 hours is gonna be
I
a
went
stretch.
through the whole entire police department with my 5-year-old and it only took 40 minutes.
It's,
One moment.
Questions and stuff that could really slow it down. Plus, it would also be open to the public to come, so.
Can we do one in August and
We got
then
an
one in
update.
September?
yeah, well, and I'm sorry, the village attorney also just reminded me that since it's a public meeting, the public also has to be able to go from one building to the next. And there could be like a delay as you gotta get the building time.
I withdraw my motion and I make my new motion to be having the next meeting at the fire department on August 4th at 5 PM. And then the next public safety meeting in September, first week of September, be at the police department.
I'll second. Any discussion?
I can't make 5 o'clock meetings.
Okay, well,
I'll be late.
is it best to just let Administrator Krecklo work with the chiefs to see which works best for the August meeting? And we could start at 5:30?
I'd be okay with that.
Do we have to have a motion for that?
You don't have to have a motion for that. We can handle it. I'll talk with the chiefs. We'll decide if police and fire will work best in August and we'll plan on a 5:30 start time.
Very
We
good.
can make that work.
All right, are we going to make any motions on any of these items that are on here, or are we waiting until after we tour?
I'm not going to. I don't see anything acceptable on the list, in my opinion, other than reconstructing the sites that we have. I wouldn't entertain any of them.
Okay.
Sorry, Steve.
I appreciate the thought process. I appreciate the review that's being put in. If I could recommend one of these, it would be as Battalion Chief Riker had suggested, looking at the renovation and the expansion of Fire Station 2, since I don't think there's any question we're going to stay there for the long term. There are some immediate like facility upgrades that are needed, and the expansion sooner rather than later would really help with fire department operations.
So
Trustee Baum?
trustee Boris, do you have the same sentiment as trustee Peeper that you would not approve anything on this list? Same for you. Because I'll make a motion to approve half of this list.
I would potentially approve 1 or 2 items.
Okay. Would everybody approve number 1?
Hang on, I gotta go back to number 1.
To get a consensus to find out what I can put on this motion.
I would.
Pardon? It is appropriate, there was a motion to approve it all, and that was denied. It is appropriate to make another motion to approve portions of it. So, and you could go through these one by one, a motion to approve 1, a motion to approve 2, if you'd like, or however you want to approach that.
Okay, I'll make a motion to approve item number 1. Option number 1.
I'll second. Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None. Number 1 carries.
Make a motion to approve item number 2, option number 2.
I'll second.
I don't agree with it at all. I won't support it.
Neither do I.
Okay, all those in favor? Aye.
Wait, to approve?
To approve number 2. Well, we're done with discussion, correct?
I am.
All right, all those in favor of approving number 2? Aye. All those opposed?
Aye.
Motion fails.
I will make a motion to approve item 3.
We have a second? Okay, motion fails for lack of a second.
Motion to approve option number 4. That is to.
I will
scale
second
back the
for
renovation of the existing
a
fire
quick
station.
discussion. Do we want to scale it back? Or do we want to go, there's a previous one out there that meets the needs.
Yeah, I don't want to scale it back. I believe what we've got is what we need to do. So let's move forward with the original concept.
Administrator Crickle, would it be appropriate for them to amend that to get rid of the scale back verbiage? And just get an updated price list?
I don't think that's necessary. Yeah, and it would be,
That falls under number one. Update the identified
Yes.
potential costs.
Yeah.
Honestly, I think we just need one. We need those two chiefs to go through the process with Gray and explain what they need. Honestly, we just need number one done.
I reviewed, number five, I'll make, wait, did we do
So
number
for
four?
number 4, all those in favor? Opposed? Aye.
Aye.
Motion fails.
I make a motion to approve number 5, 6, and 7.
Um,
I'll second that.
all those in favor? All those opposed?
Aye.
Aye. Motion fails.
just,
The motion is to do number one.
and just one comment, since that one is, since it's under $25,000, this committee has approval authority, so it does not have to go to board, and we can begin work on that.
Okay.
Okay, on to new business item E, update billable services. This is an action item.
I'm going to make a motion to table this until next meeting for lack of time.
Second.
Well, is that okay with the fire department?
It won't have any significant impact on us. We can update them next month.
Okay, any other discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? None. Motion carries. Next meeting will be Monday, August 4th. To be determined what location and probably a 5:30 start time with trustee Baum getting there at 6 as soon as he
Yeah.
can.
And it's going to be hard for me to, but I'll just have to take it as it comes.
Okay, and this meeting is adjourned at 7:07 PM.
It'll be not easy for the chair.
No.
Like, Molly.
Especially.